probably be a good time to introduce myself here.
Oh, there.
Finally. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, bro.
Welcome. Not a
Oh,
problem. Not a problem. I think I fared okay on my own there. Had to sort out a couple of bugs. Everybody, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the commentary booth. This is, for those of you that haven't had an opportunity to join us here for an MRL cast, this is George, a.k.a. Unicorn George. How you doing this afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever? Well, I suppose it would be close to,
it's pretty
early
much
morning.
midnight. Pretty
Yeah.
much midnight. Hot and sweaty after an aesthetic also race, but we're all good. We're here, and I'm looking forward to seeing my home Grand Prix in action. In hopefully a much more successful way than the race I've just run. But
Oh,
there we
no.
are.
Well, hopefully the excitement now.
We finished. That's all we need.
That's always good.
Fingers crossed.
Formation lap now here in Silverstone. Of course, now that Unicorn is here, we can take some time to actually speak about the circuit. Mikael Zamis in the two Mercedes on the front row, Unicorn. As have you gotten into game now? Are you in the lobby? Or?
I'm loading into the game now.
Fantastic. So we have Zamis and Mikael on pole position for those of you just tuning in, and of course to Mr. Unicorn. Freeware in third, and it's of McLaren 4-5 for Yoda and Nigel. And that is your top 5. Now, all drivers in the top 10 starting on soft composition tires here for this 52-lap campaign. 3 drivers out of the entire 20-driver grid on the mediums. That is Astrodate in 11th, Hyper for the Renault squad in 14th, and Extreme in 17th for Williams. And they are all opting for that medium compound tire to go a little bit further than perhaps the softs. Now, I am not entirely sure what the tire wear is going to be like here, but of course we will see that tire strategy once again. Now it is saying soft medium is possible, as is the soft hard, so a potential one stop from these racers. But of course there is the possibility of a safety car.
Yeah, and obviously, it always throws a spanner in the works when you've got that safety car deployed. Obviously, no one can predict it either. Obviously, at the start of a race, more likely, but that's when you least want one in terms of strategy. It's towards the end of the race where they become unpredictable. You get tyre wear into the mix, and people start making mistakes, especially in these 100% races where, it's called the Endurance Series for a reason, right? This is double the length that these guys are typically used to in league racing fashion. So it's definitely a possibility late race. And also, you've got to factor in that these guys aren't going to practice as much for the strategy of the 100% race compared to that of the 50% race, which accounts for more points in terms of their respective tiers in the MRL league. Whereas this one is serious, but not for points as such in the same way. Can you hear those red lights? They're not popping up on my screen, but there we are. Mikael with a very poor start. That is Zamis and Freeware up into the lead. It looks like around the outside. He's going to go into T1. He's got the move done there on the McLaren. We've got a yellow flag. Who is that? It's the Ferrari of Itzamax off into turn 1. And the 2 Red Bulls synchronized spinning into turn 3. One is facing the wrong way, the other rejoining the track now ahead of the Renault of Inulator. So Swifty into 16th, Gadwin all the way down into 19th. But up at the front, Freeware and Zamis are actually shot away from the start of the grid. Domai up the inside of Liam, the Alfa Romeo on the racing point there. And oh my goodness, what a start to this race that was. We've got Swifty as well. Nick. Oh, and Gadwin's come off again. This time turn 2 in the Red Bull. He's in the gravel. I don't know if there was contact between anyone and him.
And
but
my apologies, as my microphone apparently didn't want to work there. So I can't even remember the last thing I've said that was heard.
You haven't been muted for very long. Well, not at least on my end in Discord. As for the stream, I can't confirm, but it's the McLaren of Yoda and Nigel both in the pits after lap 1. Although, amongst all that chaos, no safety car to speak of as of yet. But we do have rather an exciting battle forming for 4th. There are the pit stop strategies. It's suggesting 1 stops around Silverstone here. The soft. Oh, and that's the Racing Point, not Racing Point, AlphaTauri of Astrodite coming out of, I believe that's Abbey there. And you've got the Haas of cramping up the inside of the Racing Point. The Racing Point of Liam very wide. Staying side by side though with the Haas.
I would love some great broadcast cameras right about now, but I'm just not getting them. I am trying to get you some good angles of this wheel-to-wheel action on circuit right now.
Hyper. Very wobbly behind them there. He's just dropped down a couple positions to Jack and Swifty. But he's back up the inside of the McLaren, the Red Bull, and he spins. He was not looking in control of that car for a good sector there.
Now Freeware under threat here from Mikkow. Down the Wellington straight here, coming into that Luffield section now, where Freeware gets overtaken by the Mercedes. It was now the Mercedes of Mikkow that was on pole position. I think he fell victim to that host bug and tried to delay his start because I think it was going to let him go a little early. But now it's Mikkow in second position. His teammate Zamis doing a fantastic job leading this race right now as Freeware is in third position. Now Yasko 4.6 seconds behind in fourth. Astrodite, the other AlphaTauri, is going to be looking to hunt him down, and he's on the medium compound tires here, so that's great for him. Liam, meanwhile, on the softs, less than half a second, or less than a second realistically away, but he has that DRS now, this hanger straight, and he could be in a good hunt for that 5th position away from that other AlphaTauri that is Astrodite ahead.
And just looking at the position changes detail on the timing tower here, it's absolutely ridiculous. Some of the positions people have gained. Jasko is up 9 places into 4th there. You've got Astrodite behind him as Jasko spins around the last corner. That is not what you want to be doing when you're up that many positions. I've whacked him with the commentator's curse there. For sure, he's now only 2 places up compared to 9, dropping 7 there. And he might lose a couple more to Hyper and his teammate Itzamax, who also didn't have a brilliant start to this race.
We're going to find out about the damage on that Ferrari now as he comes up through Sector 1. Let's see if we can get the proper shot we need here. He's quite slow through these turns. It's very possible that he has front wing damage, as these cameras are absolutely trolling me today. But Liam... Oh, and Liam's had a spin! And that's just heading into Luffield, so he's off in the Racing Point. And as I've just switched my camera to him, it's literally launched him through.
Oh, and that's Moen's sideways as well, through Luffield as well. He had a little bit of a tap with Extreme there. I don't know whether that was because of the yellow flags caused by Liam being off the track, and he had to try and avoid overtaking, because he was in a very good stead to do so, but very well done for him to catching that.
Extreme now coming through these sharp Maggots and Beckett's fast turns here, where Max Singster is seemingly under serious threat. DRS now wide open on the rear of that Williams, as Moen now has recovered into 9th. He'll be coming down here as well, but that is, of course, Extreme up the outside of the Haas. Max Singster and him having a little bit of contact. Max Singster into the grass now. Extreme in 7th position ahead. Moen has cut up to Max Singster already as well, and now Max Singster is under threat from the Alfa Romeo.
And you've got Hyper as well. He's joining the party after he had his little wobble in the first sector a couple laps ago. But it is Moen in that Alfa Romeo who looks most poised for a strike in the next few laps. And we've also got Extreme's teammate. He's also charging. This time it's for 4th place, though. DRS, he's already pretty much out of battery charge. But he is looking for the Alpha Tauri of Aphrodite there. Can he get a switch back into Luffield here? It's not going to happen for him this time, but he is on the faster soft compound tyre, so he will be looking for some positions for sure.
One thing to note real quick, for these MRL Endurance Series races, if I'm not mistaken, our lobby settings for these ones are reduced damage and regular corner cutting, just for the sake of the fact that it is, of course, pretty well a 2-hour race. And Jack S now looking quite strong with the DRS coming down the hanger straight, coming up into Stowe. No battery in that Williams at all.
Meanwhile, the battle down for what I believe is, well, you could call it 7th place. Realistically, there's a huge train of cars down here as Itamax up the inside of the hat of Max. I believe Max was disqualified from qualifying, so he started right down at the back, and he's now losing the positions he gained off of the start. I mean, he's still up 9 places on where he starts, a little bit wide out of the final corner there, as his teammate Crampy in the pit lane. He's in last at the moment. You can see these guys absolutely flying through the fast corners here at Silverstone. That's Itamax. He's just got past Max Inkster. Can he get past the Alfa Romeo of Moen now? The number 5 Ferrari there.
Oh, an emulator has been disqualified for parking in a dangerous location. And that is quite terrible for the Renault.
And now his AI is sort of trundling along at the side there.
Jackass, meanwhile, still in this hunt for 4th position, looking for Astrolabe as there is another overtake. I think that is Yasko getting ahead of the Haas. Now Liam in the Racing Point looking at the Haas as well, as Max Inkster is dropping through the field. Yeah, this train is very, very spread out, but there goes Liam out of Maggots and Beckett's. DRS wide open. Getting out wheel to wheel with the Haas. Very close racing into Stowe. The Haas of Max Inkster going wide there, getting a tap into the grass. And that is Liam out in front right now.
One thing I think it's worth pointing out is the front 3. Not only are they separating themselves from the pack, they're also separating each other from each other, as I think that's Gadwin off in the 2nd sector. He's about to be lapped, it would appear, by Zamus. Crampy's just retired. Is that a crash on pit entrance, or has he retired the car in the pit lane? Looks like it's still moving, so I think that's
Yasko on Moen right now, wheel to wheel. Big lock up there from the Ferrari, but Yasko still manages to get out into 10th position as this train is still going. It's a Max now, looking at Extreme. On the outside, wheel to wheel coming into Cops. The Ferrari's out in front, and that is the move done from Itamax for now. Yasko catching up to this action. Is Extreme going to have a possible switchback coming out of Maggots and Beckett's? That is the question, as the Williams sticking very well with the Ferrari right now, but Extreme's had an issue and he is into the wall. Moen gets through. Yasko has now joined his teammate for an 8-9 for the Scuderia, and Moen is in the last points position, catching up with the Ferraris.
Extreme has lost an end plate there. So whether he'll soldier on with the damage with slightly reduced lap times, or no, he is going to come into the pits. Now, I think he would struggle to go to the ends here on hards, despite it being a possible 1-stop, if not impossible to go to the end on the hards. So whether he goes hards now for a soft later, he started on the medium, so he can't really go soft, medium, medium here, which would be a pretty decent 2-stop for him. He could go for another set of mediums and then softs at the end. But it looks like it's going to be softs for the Williams.
Now it is
So I think
Ferrari
that's-
versus Ferrari now, as Yasko and Itzamax are going to be fighting for 8th position. Itzamax currently 3 seconds off of the Renault in 7th that is Hyper. But Yasko, his teammate, right on his gearbox right now, less than half a second separating them in this battle right now. Yasko weaving that car, coming into Cops. Maybe
Just behind
signaling
them,
for a
Williams
pass.
just
I
got
don't know if
Oh,
we'll have
that's
any
another
team orders.
Williams. It's Jack out of Maggots and Beckett. He's in the gravel, also missing a left end plate. And he's going to have to let this huge train of cars come through, otherwise he's going to get a dangerous rejoin here. And that's a huge loss of not only positions, but time as well.
Oh, and he's
he gets a
taken the
10-second time
penalty.
penalty. That's so unfortunate
Oh,
for him.
very unfortunate. Meanwhile, Yasko has made the move ahead of his teammate. Now they're running 7-8 in the Ferraris, and Yasko is the lead driver now, as Itzamax has allowed him through. Liam is in 9th, and Moen is still in 10th, meaning the Racing Point got through during the confusion there.
One person who's had an absolutely stellar recovery drive here is Swifty. We saw him spin on lap 1, and he's now sitting in 5th place. So not a bad drive from the Red Bull at all. He's just sort of on his own at the minute, 7.3 seconds behind Aphrodite and 4.2 seconds ahead of Hyper. And he's just sort of sitting there on his own with a little bit of breathing on either side, despite that spin at the start, like I said. But then up at the top, you've got the 2 Mercedes and the 2 Alpha Tauris. Both teams looking to score a good haul of points, but it is the Mercedes who are utterly dominating out here in Silverstone today.
Yeah, and the only real action happening on circuit right now, it's the 2 Ferraris, Itzamax and Yasko, as Itzamax seems to be staying within that 1 second gap that he needs to have DRS as he comes down the hangar straight. And the one thing about that Ferrari and ahead of him is that Yasko isn't taking down the gap from Hyper right now. Plus, all of these drivers on the soft compound tires, everyone's going to be pitting soon enough. I mean, it's a long race, and considering it's 100%er, they're going to be on this one stop. I think we're not going to see them stop maybe till lap 25 on these soft compound tires, because I think they can go quite a distance. But, or 20, I don't know. I haven't seen a 100% race around Silverstone just yet, so I'm just as in the dark as I'm sure some of these drivers are as far as the tire wear. But of course, the tire graphic did say a one stop was possible on either soft medium or soft hard, so time will tell.
Yeah, and the tyre graphic is always usually a bit pessimistic in a way that you've got drivers who can easily stretch those tyres longer than that if they've got insane tyre management skills there. So, you know, it looks as though it will be a one-stop regardless of your strategy, and if the predicted tyre management strategy is saying soft medium is possible, I imagine that's going to be the most popular strategy here this evening. Obviously, a safety car could change that. An early-ish safety car for that strategy could result in people saying, you know what, I can't take mediums to the end from here, but I could take a set of hards, and using that safety car to save them the time in the pit stop, that kind of thing. But right now, I think the most likely would be a soft, medium one-stop if the drivers can pull it off.
Yeah. Not a lot of action happening on circuit right now. Not too many battles. Except, as I say that, there's a big issue, and that's a Ferrari of Itzamax out of this race, and that's a VSC deployment here. As we look to see what happened there, it's just coming into the pit lane. So VSC deployed Max Inkster is going to opt to get off of those soft compound tires now, and perhaps maybe, well, why would Max Inkster be coming into that pit lane right now?
Well,
I don't believe he has any damage.
Yeah, if he's had a, you know, I don't know if we've seen, he's had a pretty decent start here. He has been, you know, falling back a little bit. Obviously, not qualifying means that he's up. He's also serving a penalty, it would seem, after fitting hard compound tires. I think it's unlikely he'll be able to take them to the end, but not impossible. Potentially, like you, I'm a little bit in the dark in terms of what's possible and not on tyres around here. Whether he's going to get out ahead of Yoda here, yet to be seen. Domai on the back of Nigel. They're getting pretty close on track. But maybe he just wasn't having a good feeling on those tyres. You can always get that sensation where you're not on the tyres that you want to be as extreme on, I'd say, odd softs usually, but realistically 12 laps isn't actually that bad around Silverstone a 100% race. So
the Domai, or Domi, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it at this point, but of course on the medium compound tire, lap fresher than Nigel ahead in 15th. Getting quite close, less than half a second the gap right now. Liam has jumped into the pit lane. Curious to see what kind of tires he is going to get on. Extreme on soft compound tires, getting close with Max Inkster.
Liam jumps into the pits in the Racing Point.
Oh, and that's Jack S off into that is, where is he right now? That is just coming out of Cops.
Before Maggins in my case, yeah. Lego, the leaders past him. Neither of the Williams here having a brilliant race in terms of keeping it on the track, but it is extreme on the back of Haas of Max Inkster up the inside. And once again, the camera angle's not doing it much justice on my screen, but it is the Williams who is ahead of that number 8 Haas now.
And
the only remaining
Domi fighting with Nigel right now. Nigel is on the rear of the Alfa Romeo this time round, except Nigel is going to have that outside coming up into turn 1. As they come up over the mound, that is still Domi out in front. Nigel looking up the inside into the right-hander. Getting out in front of the Alfa Romeo, that is the Domi. This is going to be a good little exchange. I hope we see this for some time, because that is what we need right now. We need some serious wheel-to-wheel action, and that was quite clean from both of them. But the Domi dropping off right now is Nigel with the DRS down the Wellington Straight as he comes down into Luffield, catching a little bit of that time up a little later on the braking. Sliding out, though, in the Alfa Romeo. That's going to be a big time loss for Domi as Nigel moves ahead into Cops.
So Gadwin has just had an off in the Red Bull. Also, Jack into the pits after his spin for a fresh set of mediums and presumably a fresh wing as well. So a lot of people struggling here at Silverstone, and we're only 13 laps into this race, and we've still got a fair way to go.
DRS now for Domi into Stowe on the inside. Nigel looks to close the door, sees the Alfa Romeo, kind of weaves onto the outside, giving him the space. Ooh, a little bit of a rubber band there from the McLaren. Some connection issues maybe, not sure, but coming through the penultimate turn, now through the final turn. That's Nigel still out in front of the Alfa Romeo, but this is very tight racing, and Mikau has dropped into third, and I've just been told by our lovely chat and viewers that he has now fallen behind the AlphaTauri, and I am not sure as to why, but he is less than a second behind Freeware, so he is going to provide us with some overtaking opportunity in just a moment. But we're going to hop back on over with Domi as he has DRS on Nigel now. Is he going to get the move done on the inside, wheel to wheel? Out in front for now, Nigel looking to get the switchback done. Is it going to happen? Very tight racing from the McLaren and the Alfa Romeo. Very clean racing between these two right now. Nicely done as they make their way into Stowe. That is the Domi out in front. Nigel, though, switches back, and he goes very wide through that one. Still out in front, though, is the McLaren.
As for Mikau, he's not damaged, so it doesn't appear to be a crash. I'm going to try and find... Oh, it won't be on the replay, unfortunately, but he's still using that car to its full ability.
Domi, excuse me, down the hanger straight into Stowe. Getting the move done on Nigel for now as he's into 14th, and I know it is a battle for 14th, but it is a battle nonetheless.
Meanwhile, the Mercedes of Mikau, his DRS wing not opening on the run down to Stowe. Whether he didn't enable it, like wasn't expecting it, or if it's broken and it's closed shut. Not quite sure. We can't see that information, unfortunately. But he certainly didn't open it down towards Stowe, and we'll have to wait and see for the other DRS zone to see whether he can open it there.
Oh, as Nigel's going at it again with Domi. As these two just keep continuing to fight wheel to wheel through this race. It's been 3 laps now that we've seen them come through these sections of circuit wheel to wheel. Taking turns with the baton, if you will. That is 14th position. As Mikau, though, is going very close to Freeware. We're keeping an eye on that, of course, as Domi gets the move around Nigel.
Now I'm watching Mikau versus Freeware here, and Mikau's wing is operational. He did open it down towards left field, so goodness knows why it wasn't open on the previous one. Maybe he didn't have the DRS and it was a visual glitch, but he's opening again here. Is he going to be able to get the run he needs on the AlphaTauri into Cops to make the move? He looks around the outside in that number 77 McLaren, Mercedes, sorry, and he is in front upon exit of Stowe. Is the AlphaTauri of Freeware going to come back though into the last couple of corners? Not this time around, so Mikau now back up into second place.
Very nicely done from the Australian. As, of course, Nigel is now back out ahead of Domi in 14th position. But, of course, Freeware and Mikau battling right now for second is where we want the action. The AlphaTauri dropping back into third. Going to be looking to get that second position back as quick as he can.
We've also got the 3 in 5th, 6th, and 7th position. They're all about 2 seconds from each other now, so the pit window is critical for all of these 3 drivers. We've got Swifty in the Red Bull. He's on 15 lap old soft. Hyper is apparently on fresh mediums. I don't know if that's accurate. Let me have a look on the race director.
I do not believe it is accurate. One thing we can count on is when the pit stops do start happening, we're going to see a very, very dynamic race, because there's going to be some drivers caught in traffic that are going to be having to make their way through that. And, of course, ghosting is disabled in our MRL races. Now, curious to see, I believe the pit window opens around lap 19, if Jay in the chat was correct.
I think he's about right, especially for the softer hard strategy. There's definitely room for, you know.
Now, as Freeware has dropped off of Mikau, it's still Domi, not giving Nigel any opportunity to breathe. And as they keep fighting, they are both losing time to the cars ahead right now. Max Inkster in 13, currently 4 seconds ahead pretty well of this battle that's happening. Domi on the inside, very neat and tidy from both of these racers. This is what we love to see. Hard racing, wheel-to-wheel battling, and look, both of the racers after 4 laps of battling are still, yeah, that's right, you guessed it, still here in the race. So that's what we love to see. Less than half a second of a gap coming through Maggots and Beckett's now. This McLaren Nigel is going to have a serious amount of pace coming out with DRS and a huge amount of battery, but he has a bit of an off. Loses some exit speed there. Not good in this run down to Stowe, but it could be through into turn 1 that the move is made.
We were just talking about the pit window there. Jasko on reasonably old softs. He's been on them since the start. Obviously, they're not quite at their expiry date yet. Is catching the Renault of Hyper. I was just mentioning how the pit window is going to be critical because they're about 2 seconds apart from each other. He is now just under 1 second, and he is going to get DRS on that Renault. So those two should be pretty nicely falling into a battle sooner rather than later. Hopefully the pit window doesn't separate them too drastically, and we see them back on track battling soon. But it's one that we've got to keep an eye on, and if you're watching the timing tower on the left there, one delta you definitely want to keep watchful.
Well, 17 laps now for all these drivers on their starting tires. And our tire graphic isn't entirely accurate, considering, of course, Hyper is 0 laps on those mediums, and he's been on them for at least, well, to be very honest, longer than that. Astrodite, currently also on medium compound tires, which I am fairly certain he did not start on. I could be mistaken. Let's take a look at the stops, of course. So the drivers 1 through 8 right now, no stops. Alpha, no stops. All other drivers in this race have stopped, which means that all of our racers from 1 through 8 still need to get off their starting tires. So that is all of them on 17-lap-old compounds. Now those mediums are going to get a little bit further ahead. Freeware is close to Mikau right now still, but as is Nigel on the Domi. As this race has kind of been stabilized to a point where there isn't too much battling, but it is still a good race nonetheless because tire strategies are going to start to play a role. Pit stop times, outlap, inlap, and those are the things we like to see as Nigel back on the Domi, looking to that inside. Now it's a flip back for the Alfa Romeo onto the inside, but Nigel, a little bit of traction there, pulls off a bit. The Alfa Romeo holds it nicely in 14th position. Nigel going to have another run perhaps coming out of Maggots and Beckett's.
The beauty of their battle is that they're both on those medium tyres, similar age, whereas Jasko now is dropping off the back of Hyper, and that might have something to do with tyre degradation. The mediums of Hyper seems to be granting him a little bit of extra speed, not only to the car behind, but the car in front as well. So Swifty now under a little bit of pressure as Liam on medium commands. That's a 129.5 to take fastest lap of the race here at Silverstone.
Now, one thing to note is Max Singster on those hard compound tires. Unicorn has been caught by the battling Alfa Romeo and McLaren. And if they continue to battle and can continue to catch Max Singster, they could fly through and catch up with Extreme as well, as Domi has now seemingly forgotten about the McLaren and moved on to the Haas ahead.
Yeah, well, it's an opportunity to put a car between them. In Domi's eyes, he's going to get DRS here, which is going to make Nigel's job a little bit harder in terms of the battle for, well, what is now 13th, really.
This is a huge battle now.
3 wide.
Very tight battling between these 3 drivers on circuit right now, and this is what we needed, this jolt of entertainment into this race as Domi has fallen behind Nigel, but does he have the power to keep the Alfa Romeo ahead once again? Max Singster getting away like a bandit there while these two do battle, and Max Singster is probably loving that, but Domi says, Nigel, give me a moment, please. Let me handle this, and then we can continue our fight when you pass him later on. But Nigel's saying, no, I want both of you. So, Maggots and Beckett's now. Of course, the Alpha and McLaren both going to have the DRS, but Nigel keeps going wide coming out of Beckett's there. And if he continues to do that, he has these poor exits down the hangar straight, but Domi, no issues here as he's wheel to wheel almost, just right on the gearbox of this Haas Max Singster. And Max Singster's only 2 seconds off of Extreme ahead, so I'm thinking that when Domi finishes with this Haas, if he finishes with this Haas, because Max is defending quite well. Oh, but the carry of speed out of the final turn. Look at that. Unicorn down into turn 1, wheel to wheel still. The Haas coming back at the Alfa Romeo now. And where is Nigel in all of this? He is 3/10 behind, and he's still looking at the Haas of Max Singster, as Domi's now into 13th. And things are starting to tighten up. Max Singster ahead of Domi. Domi goes wide. And now Nigel on the inside. And he's going to have DRS and overtake right on that Haas of Max Singster ahead. And this is just wild racing.
Those guys battling is costing them, I think, more than they know, because it is now time. The pit window has opened here. Mikau, Freeware, and Swifty, all of the current front runners to have pitted. Swifty was being caught pretty drastically by the Renault of Hyper, who was well within DRS range. He's got Jasko behind him, who's dropping off on those soft tyres. So it is now the end of life for the soft compound tyres that anyone started on. Obviously down in the fight that we've got Max, Domai and Nigel in.
Take a second really quick while that fight is unfolding. Of course, Zamis in the Mercedes leading this race on the 20-lap old softs as Domi slides in between Max Inkster and Nigel there. But of course, Zamis is approaching these racers. He's about to come upon these battling drivers on these soft compound tires. You can see him in the rear view of Max Inkster right now. So this battling is costing them serious time because they're about to get lapped by the race leader. And he's on 21 lap old softs. So they need to get things in gear here and break away, because you see now Nigel and Domi have gotten ahead of Max Inkster, but Max Inkster can go a little bit longer than they can considering he's on those hards. But Max Inkster losing a lot of pace to Zamis. Zamis is going to catch him in no time.
Yeah, and this is playing fairly well into Zamis' hands here, because his teammate, Mikal, has just pitted for the fresh mediums, and now he's got DRS for what could be a very quick inlet. And you can see as well, his battery charge there is pretty much full. He's using overtake a little bit here just to push through the back markers here, get past them as cleanly and as quickly as possible. But this push lap is going to be absolutely brilliant for him if he decides to pit now, whilst he can benefit off the DRS from the back markers here.
It is a very good situation for this Mercedes, and I am sure he is loving it because he is leading this race. He's cutting through traffic. He's getting overtake. He's getting DRS. He has everything he needs to just cut through this field and get himself a leg up on the traffic that he pitted, well, that he hasn't even pitted away from yet. And he's going to carry on, which can only mean I think we're going to see him do a very, very quick soft medium here, because once he gets onto these mediums, it's very clear that I think the hards are the wrong tire to be on here. If he's able to go 23 laps on soft compound tires, and you can see there the graphic coming across again that the pit window is open, and him leading this race, he's just doing so well. And now he's going to come up with Extreme and Nigel, who are fighting, and we're going to jump on board with Extreme as he's going to have, well, Nigel got ahead of him, so Nigel's got that DRS, but Extreme, he's going to lose a lot of time, and now he's got to worry about Zamis behind.
Oh, that's Extreme off into the grass. He's dropping like a stone. There's Domo on the outside. Is he going to lose the position to Max Inkster as well?
No, Mikau is just at the fastest lap of the race, and Max Inkster has just slotted by Extreme. So those soft compound tires right now are absolutely killing that 15th position driver, as Moen and Liam have had an exchange, as Moen has jumped into the pit lane. That's Liam into 8th position in the racing point. So Moen getting off of the softs now. Yasko has still yet to pit off of his. And as we take a look at the stops, Astrodite, Hyper, Yasko, and Alpha all yet to pit in this race. And Zamis, of course, at the lead, yet to pit as well. But I think we're going to see him come in soon.
And I think you summed it up perfectly. The hard tyres, are not the ones that you want to be on as Zamis comes into for his pit stop. As we've seen Max Inkster just been absolutely swamped by the cars on the mediums, even the mediums that have started this race. So, not good for him. Speaking of soft tyres, Jasko really needs to come into the pits as he's being overtaken by Mikau, who has pitted. Meanwhile, the Ferrari is still yet to do so as he dives into the pits now. The real question is Mikau going to get the undercut on his teammate? Looks like Zamis is exiting the pit lane now.
I don't think he's going to get it. It's going to be close. Not even close. Zamis is gone. And it's all about that backmarker traffic that he got into. And now there's some for Mikau, but not long enough as Alpha comes out of the pit lane, locks things up, and lets the Mercedes by. Hyper, speaking of lockups, having a bit of an issue coming through the left-hander. Now as we go into the straight, Mikau, no DRS for him. But he isn't using any of that battery, but just the fresh tires and the speed that he has just gained massive amounts of time on this Renault ahead, and Hyper hasn't pit yet, and neither has Astrodite. So Zamis' net P1 and Mikau is, realistically right now, net P2. So the Mercedes running 1-2, but Mikau he's not going to stick around for Hyper to pit. He wants to get through this traffic and try to get close to his teammate.
Yeah, I think the benefit will be the DRS as they come through Maggots and Beckett's here. The Mercedes is just going to fly past this Renault here. Obviously, a Hyper not yet in his pit window. He's got to go a few more laps, probably 6 to 8 more laps before he can safely pit the softs. And he'll probably want to push it a little bit more, and there you go, you can see Mick out. Absolutely breezes past the Renault of Hyper there. But like I said, it's not going to be the pit window for Hyper just yet, but you can see that the pace of the mediums, whilst it's a lot better than the hards, is not where you'd want it to be. And apparently, this is where the one-stop pit window opens for soft tyres. I think we're a bit past that in-game graphics, but there we are.
Now, Yasko has come out in 7th position here. He was in 4th when he pitted off of the softs. Liam on the medium compound tires now catching up with him as Yasko setting his first lap on mediums now. It appears Liam dropping off there.
DRS on the McLaren of Nigel as they plough down into Spo up the inside. The 99 Alfa Romeo has got the move done, but he's not done it convincingly. That Nigel is right on him as he looks down the outside into the penultimate corner. Can he get back past? He can't. The Alfa Romeo of Domai securing the place around the outside there. But these two still haven't released each other from their scopes, and it's unbelievable how long these guys have been cleanly racing for. As Extreme finally comes the last person to get off of those, I believe, starting softs.
Oh, there's a slight tap there from Nigel on the rear of that Alpha, but DRS now once again overtake enabled as they just continue to train one another along up this field. I don't even know if we can call it battling anymore. This might just be a little bit of friendly strategy between the two drivers. The driving is just far too clean to be battling at this point. This is just dancing. They're in a tango, if you will. Absolutely lovely stuff.
And we've been saying it all day. It's just what you love to see, right? Just two cars exchanging positions. You can really tell that these guys are of pretty much identical skill, at least when it comes to this track. They're both on pretty much identical tires as Nigel.
He can't stop doing that, man. He can't stop tapping that inside coming out of Beckett's. I don't know what it is. That's probably the 5th time we've seen it on board with him today in this cast.
Definitely something that could cost him come at the end of the race. If he loses to Domai by 3 to 5 tenths, he's going to kick himself for making that mistake time and time again. Meanwhile, Hyper being caught by yet another fresh medium user in the form of Freeware, this time in the AlphaTauri, as they go down towards Stowe. This time the AlphaTauri trying to squeeze on the outside. There wasn't really that room there, but he's off of the track, way outside the curb, but up on the inside. The left-hander there, and Hyper's like, excuse me, this is for position, I'm not going to let you have it that easily, and he slots back into 4th place.
Well, Hyper still has to pit, so this really isn't for position for him, considering Freeware has stopped now. So Hyper holding Freeware up quite a massive amount here, which is his right to do so, as of course this is racing after all. And, well, not everyone likes being overtaken here, but Freeware doesn't care about the feelings of the Renault. He makes the move ahead into 4th position, and now his next target is, of course, 6 seconds away. That is Mikau, and I don't believe we're going to see Hyper have another switchback with the AlphaTauri here. If he does, it may come far later in the races. I think Hyper now going to start to feel some wear on the older mediums.
Yeah, you can really see the pace loss that he's had on those mediums there. Getting to the end of what is really that easable. Meanwhile, Nigel is almost dropped out of DRS range of Domai, so he needs to really step up a gear if he wants to stay in this battle. Meanwhile, Domai's teammate, Moen, catching Max Inkster. Those hard tires really haven't done that Haas any favours, and now he's under threat from yet another driver here.
Let's see what we can find on circuit. Nigel he's picking and choosing times to get in range of the Domi here, because if you look at the battery difference, Nigel has double what Domi has in the tank for energy deployment right now, and he's using it very, very patiently. Max Inkster currently in 12th position on those hard compound tires. Could start to see some pace if those two don't pit soon, realistically. And speaking of pitting, that is Hyper, who has finally come in, and he has jumped onto a fresh set of softs. So it's Hyper on softs to the end now. It says 27 lap hold, but I guarantee you that was the lap where he came in on. So now we're going to see those clock up and probably double entire life on your screens. But Hyper out in P8 on the soft compound tires, and that is quite a good strategy, considering everyone ahead of him, Unicorn, is on mediums, and we've seen those softs make it to at least 24 laps, of course referring to Zamis, who is now in second position awaiting Astrodite's pit stop, who is still leading this race, Astrodite, and he is yet to stop here. So he's 7.2 seconds ahead of the net race leader Zamis in the Mercedes. As we say that, Zamis setting a 1:28.1, making it the fastest lap of the race so far.
Nigel and Domi are back side by side. Nigel, it was just took a few laps off, and now he's back ahead of the Alfa Romeo. Goodness knows where he picked that second back up from, that he lost to the Alfa Romeo, but now sitting pretty in the points as he goes wide as they approach Magnus and Beckett. Domi obviously going to get DRS. Domi's teammate Moen as well. He's looking at the back of Max Inkster, but it's Nigel versus Domi. They've been the headline fight here so far throughout this race, even though it is for P10. And that's Domi, DRS enabled around the outside of the McLaren, side by side through Stowe. Who's going to get the better exit? It looks like it is going to be Domi, as Nigel.
So he's blinked. He's blinked. So now Domi, I think in that Alfa Romeo, he's thinking, okay, it's time to push, because he knows he's fighting Nigel here. Big time. So Nigel going for an undercut. He was on the 1 lap older compound tire. What's he going to jump on? I have a feeling it's going to be softs, and it is. So he's going to pop out of the pit lane, if I'm not mistaken, well, he's going to be lapped for starters, and he's going to come out in P13, I think, is a lock for him, yeah.
That's the Williams of as Jack out of Maggots, as he's pretty much been lapped by just about everyone in this race, just Gadwin behind him. But he's not having a brilliant day today. Neither Williams of the Williams have been doing too brilliantly. But whilst there's not too much going on track, although Jasko actually has caught Swifty up, this could be an interesting fight for 5th place.
Yeah, a couple battles unfolding on circuit right now. Of course, the battle for 11th between Moen and Max Inkster, but of course, Jasko in this fight for P5 with the Red Bull. He is on the fresher compound mediums right now.
Now, one person who is going to benefit from this is Hyper on those fresh softs. If these guys can hold each other up, and subsequently Liam as well, possibly, if Hyper can either get past Liam before these guys finish up, or Liam gets tangled in this as well, Hyper on those fresh softs is going to look good. But I don't know whether Hyper, we saw him losing pace on those medium tyres as he's come off. I believe he's got the yellow flag.
Not entirely sure if he's come off. He hasn't seemed to drop a massive amount. Very weird there. But Astrodite has come in finally off of his starting tires here, as Jasko still within a second of Swifty and Moen within a second of Max Inkster. Where is Astrodite going to pop out? I believe it was around a 6 to 5 second gap he had ahead of the race leader Zamis, who has now Mikau on his rear around 2 seconds behind, and Mikau being held up by Hyper earlier. Gonna be looking to fly. And Asteroid's going to come out in 4th position on fresh softs, and that could be big trouble for the front few drivers here. It appears Asteroid was on a very good strategy, as he only has 12 seconds to make up on the quicker compound tire, and he can stay on them for 20 laps safely. So we will see what kind of pace those softs have in them when things get down to the wire, as Swifty and Yasko have exchanged positions now. Yasko into 5th, Swifty with the DRS looking to catch back up with the Ferrari here on lap 31, as Moen is still hunting down the Haas of Max Stingster in 11th.
Yeah, and it's just worth pointing out, Jack S there, he's retired from the race. He'd just come into the pits after the crash out of Maggots. It looks like he might have crashed out of the pit lane as Max Stingster kicks up a bit of dirt. Moen still behind him, taking up lots of inside curb. Like you said though, regular corner cutting is in play, so there's a lot of places you can do something like that, but the Alfa Romeo right behind. Max in the AlphaTauri a little bit sloppy, coming out as they approach the straight. DRS overtake though very low in the Alfa Romeo and the Haas, but Max seems to have a bit to burn, whereas Moen is having to conserve it right now, which is not what he wants to be doing when there's a car on slow, hard tyres in front of him. He needs to just fire past him, and he's not doing that right now. I'm curious as to what was the problem with Hyper there. We saw him flag a couple of, or cause a couple of yellow flags to be sort of propped up on track, but it didn't seem that he was off so much as it was just potentially slow moving. It was almost as if he had some sort of mechanical failure in an engine department. Obviously not something you're likely to cause in a race, especially not this quickly from 0% wear, but it is possible if you really thrash the car. Still going to be an easy strategy. Out of the outside of Beckett comes the Alfa Romeo, and he's got DRS. He's up on the inside towards Stowe. This is exactly where you want to be if you're Moen, as he goes a little bit deep. Very, very forceful defending, but it is in his right, I believe, to do that as he defends again the inside line. Very nice defensive driving from Moen instantly after he took that position, and that's really what you want to be doing. Obviously, Max Stingster on these old hards, they're not going to be going any quicker than they are right now. So he's only going to get slower as this race develops, but he's still within that DRS range of the Moen, sorry.
My mic has gummed up once again, so I'm going to have to stop doing that. But excuse me, Max Stingster getting spun out there. You hate to see it. Moen and him coming together just before the Wellington straight, and all of the fast movers moving by them, as things have really kind of slowing down here in this race. Nigel, though, in 12th position on those softs, is going to be looking to cut through some traffic, and the first target on his list is going to be Max Singster.
That's a point, actually. Nigel pitted for those softs. We saw him battling for Domai, but Domai hasn't reacted yet. Domai still on the mediums. And also Swifty struggling to catch back up with Jasko in the Ferrari. So a couple of battles that may not be happening on track, but they definitely will be happening towards the end of the race.
Nigel still in this hunt for Max, as Swifty is caught up with Jasko once again. Oh, it's tight. But that's Nigel with a very clean overtake, but Max Singster is switching back to the inside. It's still wheel to wheel as they approach the straight. Nigel getting out in front for now. Max Singster going to have DRS and overtake enabled. Not quite able to get close enough to the McLaren to make a move back into 10th, or 11th, excuse me, as Nigel is looking to hunt down Moen, who has already lost out a lot of time to the McLaren. As Swifty very close with Jasko still.
A little bit of a lock-up as they come onto the straight, where Swifty will get DRS, of course. On the Ferrari, without that lock-up, he might have had a little bit of a better run. Swifty just a tad bit more overtake in the tank.
Those lockups are hurting the Red Bull racer at the moment. Meanwhile, Nigel on Moen, down into Stowe. He's getting that move done into 10th position. Very nicely done from him, and he is through for now. Uncertain if the Alpha will be able to have a run, but of course Mikal in 2nd position right now in a fight for lead of this race is starting to hunt down his teammate Zamis, and Mikal now within the DRS. Dare I say we may see it soon. Zamis has been so strong throughout this race. He had such a strong in-lap and charging through the back markers here to try and get away from Mikal, but Mikal such a strong racer as well. He was on pole position, of course, here in this one. And his teammate doing so well here. He's flying right now behind Zamis.
He's absolutely crushing it right now. And what you don't want there is,
Speaking of crushing it, Swifty is starting to catch up with Jasko. He is within half a second now, and he is going to have DRS in just a few moments' time as they come through the double left here into the Wellington straight. Now it is Mikal within half a second of Zamis, and we still have battles happening all over this circuit in both time and in wheel-to-wheel action, as it looks like it's going to be a race between these two groups to first, to see who battles it out first, really. But I think it's going to be Mikal, as we're going to jump on over to the Mercedes in a fight for lead of this race. Mikal on the older medium compound tires, showing fantastic pace as he now approaches his teammate Zamis in the lead.
Yeah, I think Mikal realizes as well he's on those older tires. So now, while he's got the DRS, this is his most beneficial time to strike. He's also got Gadwin there, who he probably had DRS from as well. That's going to help him catch up to his teammate. But he's just biding his time for the time being. He's caught up quickly, but you don't want to rush the overtake and make a mistake. As well, we still have Swifty and Jasko as well. Domai still yet to pit as well. That's something we've got to keep an eye on.
You can see Zamis and Mikal have lapped Gadwin and Alpha 14th and 15th respectively. Swifty's still sticking with Jasko, but all eyes on this Mercedes as he looks to overtake Zamis, and Mikal and Zamis have quite the rivalry over the past while. It hasn't been recent they've had an opportunity to race like this, but I remember months ago it was very regular you'd see these two fight on circuit. But now it is Mikal and Zamis as teammates coming into Stowe here. Mikal's just so close.
It's nice to see Zamis up at the front showing his extreme pace right now. Obviously, in the last couple, we've seen him not have the best of luck, shall we say, when it comes to these 100% races. But now, it seems, as of right now, his luck has changed. I don't want to whack him with a commentator's curse either, but right now he's proving pretty strong.
Well, Yasko has just received DRS on the back marker of Extreme down into Stowe, and I believe it was the saving grace for the Ferrari as Swifty was in full swing trying to get up to the scarlet red car, but of course less than half a second still separating them as Mikau still not able to pull the trigger on his teammate just yet. But they are going to be coming into a very fast section of circuit in Copse heading through Maggots and Beckett. So what are we going to see between these two as we keep an eye on Swifty on the timing tower for when things do start to unfold on that end of the grid?
And there's not too many laps left either. Liam comes into the pits for fresh softs. Maybe going for a fastest lap attempt. Domai still yet to pit. I keep saying it, but he is.
Oh, and here we have it. Mikau on Zamis. He's up the inside into Stowe. He gets the move ahead on the inside line. Very clean racing between these two. It was a very neat and tidy move from the two Mercedes. Mikau now out ahead. Zamis gets a snap of oversteer, and he has already started to fall off his teammate. So Mikau showing very good pace here, as is Zamis. Both of these Mercedes currently 14.5 seconds ahead of the next closest racer, and that is, of course, Freeware in third position for AlphaTauri. Astrodate, his teammate, on softs, currently 4.5 seconds ahead, holding steady there, as Swifty just hasn't been able to capitalize on Yasko in that Ferrari yet. And currently it is Mikau, Zamis, Freeware, Astrodate, and Yasko rounding off your top 5, with Swifty, Yoda, Liam, the Domi, and Nigel rounding off your top 10. Moen, Max Singster, Extreme, Gadwin, and Alpha are the last third of the grid.
I think that gap between Zamis and Freeware there gives the Mercedes both a little bit of breathing room. It gives them the opportunity to have this fight. And as it's saying, rivals, they're going to want to have that fight, regardless of what the team might think. If you're those two drivers, you want to be the one who's standing on the top spot of that podium.
We have some pit stops now. That's Yoda in for some new soft compound tires. And Domai, I believe the Domai as well. Except the Domai is on his way in, as Yoda is on his way out, and I think the Domai is going to be overtaken here by Nigel, who we saw undercut the Domai absolute ages ago, 9 laps to be fair. And that undercut 9 laps ago from Nigel, if he is able to make it on these soft compound tires, is going to pay off huge for the McLaren, as he was fighting with the Domai for that entire first stint. And now we see him with a massive undercut.
Well, Domai can Nigel can certainly make it to the end on this soft. The only question is, how fast can he make it to the end? Because those soft tires are going to drop off a little bit, whereas Domai's, they're going to be fast till the end. So that is his only saving grace. But he is about 24 seconds away from the McLaren right now that he was battling so closely prior to that. And it looks like the two Mercedes are going at it again through Maggots and Beckett's right now. That's Zamis just 3 tenths behind as his DRS wing pops open. Overtake as well. He was on about a full tank, or a full battery should I say, of ERS, but now he's right on the gearbox of his teammate, but he's not making the move through Stowe. Is he going to have a look up the inside into the next corner? He's not. He's just going to bide his time, wait there for a little bit. You see, Dirty Air is definitely a factor in the new game, and he's got to be mindful of that.
And you can see there Zamis in Hamilton's car, Mikau in Bottas's car, so that is in effect, technically speaking, Valtteri Bottas winning this British GP right now, and Lewis Hamilton trailing behind if you wanted to put it into reality terms. But of course, Zamis in second now. Another slip of oversteer from him. Zamis on the wheel, Mikau on the pad. It is a battle of the devices right now, and I have to say, Mikau although I believe on a regular day is a little bit quicker than Zamis. Zamis isn't one to back down easy from a fight, and like you were saying, and like I was saying earlier in this commentary, rivals these two are, and they are going to fight until the very end. As Zamis now approaching again the rear of his teammate through Cops.
Now, one battle that's not on track yet, obviously the two Mercs are the two Alpha Tauris, currently in 3rd and 4th. Astrodite on those soft tyres should technically be faster than Freeware at the moment. He's 3.2 seconds down with 11 laps to go here at Silverstone. This is the Mercedes. Zamis still behind Mikau after Stowe. But those two Alpha Tauris, Astrodite's definitely going to want a shot at that podium if he can get it. He's closing down pretty slowly, but he is closing. If it's going to be fast enough, as Yoda sets the fastest up at 127 flat on those fresh softs he just pitted for.
Just really quick, as this lovely battle unfolds between Zamis and Mika, I want to take a second to thank all of you tuning into the stream this evening for this 100% British virtual Grand Prix. Of course, my name is Striffy and my co-commentator, Unicorn. If you are interested in participating in races like this, of course, check out the Misfits Discord and join us, and just look out for the announcements when we post these races. We are going to be doing one of these endurance races for every race of the F1 2020 season. So of course, this weekend being the British Grand Prix, we are following suit just as we did for our previous 3 rounds: Hungary, Austria, and of course Austria again when we began in F1 2019. Now the thing is here, Zamis has dropped off of Mikau as they have started to approach traffic. And another thing I want to mention, just in reference to the Discord, of course, this is not a regular league race. It is an exhibition, 100% distance. Our regular league races are on Thursdays at 3:15 p.m. CDT / 9:15 p.m. BST. That is our Tier 2 race on Thursday. Of course, this coming week we have the Vietnamese Grand Prix for round 3. And that same day on the Thursday, 2 hours later at 5:15 p.m. CDT and 11:15 p.m. BST respectively, we have our Tier 1 racing action. Of course, all assists are allowed with the exception of pit assists and certain braking assists, just because we want to see all drivers drive their cars as comfortably as possible and as fast as they possibly can. Of course, if they aren't quick, they aren't going to get the wins, and that's how we do things. Of course, you can check all of those races in highlighted form out on our YouTube channel. Wow, that was long. That was longer than I thought it was. Of course, back to the racing action. Not too much happening on circuit right now. If you're new to the stream, help us out. Hit that follow button because there is a ton of racing action happening over here.
Now, Jay in chat has just pointed this out as well, but Yoda has just unlapped himself from not one but both the Mercedes. His pace right now, absolutely incredible. He's just set another fastest lap time on those fresh softs. And goodness me, if he'd have had, I don't know if it was a strategy or where he qualified that cost him, but right now, that McLaren is flying around this track at the moment. As Domai, fresh softs, he's closing in on his teammate in Moen. He's going to want to get past both him and Max to get into the points.
Should not be too difficult on those fresh soft compound tires. I mean, we saw the undercut that Nigel got out of the Domi, but of course Mo and his teammate in 11th, Max Inkster, on very aged tires at this point. It's going to be fairly easy for the Domi to get past both of them. It could be a 2-1 here as Moen on Max Inkster without the DRS. You see the Domi, his teammate lets him off, almost slingshots him into Max Inkster, into Stowe. It's not enough to get him ahead of the Haas, but man, has he ever caught up, as we are now going to approach the penultimate turn. Oh man, this is very, very fast from the Alfa Romeo right now. Around the outside, the final turn of the circuit. A little bit of contact there, but it is the Domi into the points, into 10th position, and now he's going to look to hunt down that 17 seconds separating him and the driver that we have seen him battle through all day with. That is, of course, Nigel in 9th.
As much as he does have quite a lot of pace right now, Domai, I think it's too little too late. 17 seconds is a huge gap to crumble in just, what is this, 8 laps to go here. Unless he's got 2 seconds per lap on Nigel, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't. It looks like it's game over for Dwayne. His best result here would be points, so he's just got to stick it out and try and hold himself there. Meanwhile, speaking of that, Max Inkster has got to keep mowing behind him if he wants to finish 11th here. Obviously, those old hards. I mean, we saw the pace he had, or the pace he didn't have, should I say, on the mediums earlier. So now another set of mediums, similar age, only this time the hards are older. So Max Inkster is going to be struggling towards the end of this race.
Now, one thing to note, all drivers from 15th through to 9th have been lapped in this race, and we were talking a moment ago as Yoda unlapped himself. We thought it was back markers, and it was, but it was the back marker absolutely flying through that front-running traffic to try and get himself back into a position to score points. And as a result, now he'll have an extra lap to make up time on Liam in that racing point ahead. And dare I say, the amount of race left, he may just happen to pull that off given the tires, but Liam, he's on soft tires as well. And if that timing graphic is right, he's going to have some good pace in that racing point also.
Alpha just came off in the final few corners. I don't think he's got damage on his racing. Oh, he does actually. He's missing a left end plate, I believe.
Moen has caught up with the Haas of Max Inkster. Meanwhile, Unicorn coming in through Luffield here. I think we're going to see an overtake very, very soon.
Yeah, and it's Mikau out the front, still leading. 1.5 seconds to his teammate now. He is on all the tyres, so Zamas could have a sudden burst of speed towards the end of this race. But neither of them particularly reserving ERS for that moment, both in the teens in terms of battery charge.
Everybody running low battery at this point in the race. Some have done very well in managing it. You can see Astrodate in 4th position right now, 24%. Freeware, 30% almost, but his fuel icon's on. You have Zamis with around 20. Mikau leading this race, who has pulled away from his teammate by about 1.5 right now. We saw it was a little bit higher, which means Zamis is pushing. But all the batteries are on the same level at the moment. And there's a safety car?
Alpha into Maggots. I don't know if it was intentional or not, or if he just completely lost the car. But there was no spin. Into Maggots, he just sort of binned it into the wall. The Swifty has just received a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, unfortunately for him. But he was in the right place at the right time when that was called. And he's going to be able to get some fresh softs. Liam should be able to get him in terms of overtake. He's going to come in. He's only on 6-lap-old softs. That's surprising for me. Alpha leaves, but he is the reason for this safety car here. With
you know who has just gotten a huge struck of luck here is Yoda, because Mikau still behind him, not lapping him. He's going to be able to come in or stay out, and he is going to come in, and I believe all of the racers are going to come in now, and we're going to see an absolute circus in this pit lane. And you know who's going to be affected by this? Zamis. Big time, as both Mercedes are going to be double stacking under this safety car. Let us hope the gap right now between the rest of these drivers in this grid is going to be enough for Zamis to maintain a second position, because if it isn't, he could be in serious trouble after a superlative drive behind his teammate now, Mikau, who has just exited. And you can see Zamis is getting a nice set of softs on as well on these two Mercedes, these silver arrows, if you will, or black arrows this evening, are going to be flying on this restart.
So here we are. Astrodite, he's going to get stacked, and it's for quite a significant chunk of time as well. Jasko, though, coming into the pit lane, so he is... Oh, wait, no, he's not.
He's changed his mind. He has stayed out on the mediums in the Ferrari. He's even cut the grass to do it. He is absolutely a mad lad in that Ferrari, as he's saying, you know what? Position. I want the position, and that's going to put him into, what's it going to be? 4th. Was it worth it? It's going to be a tough call, because how many drivers is he realistically contending with? What is the gap to leader right now? The gap to leader, the Domai currently lapped. Yoda, the only driver that isn't in that top 8.
Just received a drive-through penalty So he's messed up big time here. I think not pitting was a mistake, but then speeding under the safety car. That's the final nail, and he's spun.
Oh dear, that Ferrari reset to track while he's at it as well. Unfortunate for the Ferrari after what was a very good race from him, but it is Zamis and Mikau now both on tires, and ooh, this could be very spicy as Zamis has some traffic to work his way through. That is the Domi in 9th position. The lapped car, of course, maybe going to be looking to unlap himself at this race restart. Normally, the lapped car should be able to move ahead of the safety car in an attempt to unlap himself here, but as you see, that is not the case. And
yeah, we saw it.
I didn't think it was going to happen, considering it has the entire race has pretty well gone by, and of course, right at the end, we need to have that curveball thrown in, if you will, in that safety car. But I'm sure the drivers are going to be very stoked about this. It's going to make for some very exciting racing at the end of this one.
Absolutely, and it is.
Oh,
it just keeps
Yasko
everyone
has
on their
pitted,
toes.
and he's not going to be able to serve that drive-through under safety cars, so he's going to get fresh softs. Where is he going to come out? I mean, he is guaranteed points at this point because he's not lapped.
That's true, but it depends how long the safety car stays out, because if these guys behind him are allowed to catch up, everyone's on fresh soft. He's not going to have the tyre advantage at all.
No.
In fact, the only thing he's got against him is the drive-through that he can't serve yet, and he's going to have to serve it. Probably, it depends. If the safety car comes in this lap, which I would hope it does,
He'll have a
to get
little bit
much
of
racing,
wiggle room.
but he's not got too much in terms of choice for when he serves that drive-through, and it's going to cost him dearly here. He's
Well,
gonna lose.
Zamis, the wheel driver, versus his teammate Mikau, the pad driver, in a 1-2 for Mercedes right now. It is, of course, MRL Endurance Series racing action. And it's round 4 here for the British Grand Prix. If you're enjoying, don't forget to hit that follow button. It greatly helps us out. And, of course, you don't miss any of the racing action when we are live. And we are live every Thursday from now until December 17th with MRL action. 2 tiers for you, 2 50% distance races every Thursday from now until the week ahead of Christmas. So don't forget to tune in 3:15 p.m. CDT / 9:15 p.m. BST for tier 2. And then, of course, 2 hours after that, we have our tier 1 racers at 5:15, 11:15 respectively. So a lot of racing coming. And then, of course, if you're new, each one of these races, these MRL endurance races, happens when there's an F1 race on the weekend. So we're trying to follow along with the calendar, but they're making it a little bit more difficult with some of those fantastic new circuits they've added this season, which I personally cannot wait for. How about you, Unicorn?
Absolutely, it's gonna be great fun, you know, especially tracks that most of the drivers will not necessarily have driven around, but especially not in an F1 style car. There we go, Domo's finally been allowed to unlap it, but it's just going to be so refreshing and inject a bit of, you know, excitement into an F1 season where we're seeing 2 such dominant cars, but they were developed for the other tracks. Obviously, they're still going to be the creme de la creme when it comes to spitting edge F1 technology, and they're still going to be the fastest cars, but it depends how everyone puts their cars to, you know, use on those tracks. Whether you know, who gets the most out of their simulators and can put in the work to optimize their cars for what is, in some cases, a little bit unknown territory for teams. Real
quick, big shout out to Mr. BTFU15 for the gifted sub in the chat. Congratulations to Mr. Captain Grimm and 901st. Good to see you supporting the MRL, my friend, and happy to see you with that M tag in the chat. Welcome to the subscriber community for the Racing League. Love to have you.
Surely the safety car is going to come in now. It can't wait for... Is that Moen? Or is it Domay, because he was allowed to unlap himself? Surely we're not waiting for Domay. As much as I'm sure Domai would love it for his sake. The safety car, for entertainment, needs to come in this lap. So we can see Mikau and Zamas, they're both on identical tyres now. The playing field has been leveled here. So, here we go. Are we going to see Mikau hold on to that lead, which he so desperately fought Zamas for, who was so dominant at the start of this race? Mikau obviously sat on pole, but Zamas was the one who led after Mikau's terrible start, which we think, well, you suggested earlier, was probably down to the host glitch.
Yeah. I can't believe the
are.
safety car is not coming in right now. It's waiting on, of course, the Domai. It's and it's shocking that it's let the Domai pass, but it won't let the other the other lapped drivers do just the same.
Rather confusing.
Fortunately for the Domai, he has entered this battle, but he is on 9-lap-old softs according to what we have on our timing tower right now. So, will he have the pace to fight with the rest of the grid from 9th is going to be an entirely different situation. And now Nigel, having been lapped in 10th, will not be able to participate in that battle. But one key thing is he is going to get a point if he's able to keep that car ahead of the Alfa Romeo that is mowing. You also have Max Inkster, Gadwin, and Extreme who are going to be in the mix. Of course, there is traffic separating them. You can see the intervals on screen as well.
So we're going to have 2 last laps of absolute just overtaking madness. I mean, we saw the positional swaps in the first lap and the second lap. We're about to have what's basically a carbon copy of that, with everyone on fresh softs. Pretty much throughout the field, everyone's on softs. The level of freshness varies with the likes of Domai and
Well, it's only going to
Gadwin.
be a 2-lap sprint. There's not going to be any DRS.
That's another very good point, actually. The only thing is, everyone's also going to have a full battery as well. So, energy management is back in play.
Is it really, though?
That's true, actually. Yeah, you could just run. You probably could just run, actually.
All right, we have 100% for a lap and a half, really. All right, let's just gun it and, use it or lose it.
Finally, race control. Letting the safety car come back to the pit lane with Mikau on the restart.
Now, as a result of the Domai unlapping himself, that has unleashed Zamis on his teammate without any traffic to impede him. And Mikau is away now here, and Zamis, his teammate, has dropped back a significant amount already, as Mikau hasn't really given him any indication, but it is both Mercedes away now, almost 2 seconds ahead of the competition, Unicorn. An absolute blistering start from the 2 Mercedes here, as Freeware now has just begun to catch up to what is going on. A second and a half behind Astrodate, his teammate as well. It is a 1-2 for Mercedes and a 3-4 for those Honda-powered AlphaTauri.
Further down the grid, Yoda's just snuck past Liam. And now he's got Jasko in his sights. We saw him set fastest lap after fastest lap there at the end, even unlapping himself from the 2 Mercedes at the front. So his pace is coming through now. But the grid's staying fairly smooth as Moen is blue flagged. He's going to have to let people pass here. As Max receives a 5-second penalty for ignoring blue flags.
Oh, he needs to get the heck out of Dodge if he wants to stop taking penalties. He's got some seriously fast drivers behind him, and he is holding up Yasko a massive amount for this McLaren and Yoda. Yoda's so clean through Maggots and Beckett's. Yasko's had an issue with Max Inkster, the back marker, and now it's Yoda down the hanger straight ahead of the Ferrari here on the penultimate lap of this race. And who is that? That's Liam on the side of the Ferrari up into Stowe, wheel to wheel. Is Liam going to get Yasko too? It is looking like it. He goes out a little wide there, and Yasko is into the pit lane on the penultimate lap of this race. Mikau sets the fastest lap, but it is going to get shattered by Astrodate at 125.9. Liam and Yoda. Wow, that was just some seriously hard racing through Sector 3 if I've ever seen it here in Silverstone, that's for sure. Wow.
Yeah, if you're Freeware right now, I was toying with the concept that maybe Aphrodite was going to catch Freeware. Aphrodite was on the softs compared to Freeware on the mediums.
Oh, and Extreme's
Now,
out.
both on softs.
Extreme,
Yeah,
I believe,
he
is
came
retired.
together. I don't know if he came together with Max Ingster out of Magnus and Beckett, but both of them were facing the wrong way. Obviously, we saw Max crash initially, but then further up the straight, he was also facing the wrong way. So I don't know if those two came together, whether Max redoing the track or an Extreme hit each other, but I'm not quite sure what happened there, or whether they just both crashed separately.
And among just amongst that intensity, I've completely forgotten. Of course, it was Yasko serving that drive-through penalty, and of course, thank you to Harvey in the chat for reminding me. And that is just awful for the Ferrari having to serve a drive-through like that. But of course, it is Mikau now leading this race. His teammate Zamis behind him in second. Mikau coming home here for the British GP MRL Round 4 Endurance Series, taking the win. Zamis, his teammate, right behind. It is a 1-2 for Mercedes here. Freeware taking home that third and final podium position as the rest of the drivers take the checkered flag. Now it is Aphrodite in fourth, Yoda fifth, Liam sixth, the Domi in seventh, which is a fantastic result from him having finally unlapped himself and getting even more points. Otherwise, it was looking to be a lock into P9 for him. Swifty in 8th, Yasko in 9th, and Moen bringing up the rear for the final points position in 10th. What a race. Nigel,
Swifty
Gadwin,
lost so many positions there.
and Max Singster, the last drivers to race him. Swifty did lose quite a few positions.
3 positions to a 5-second penalty. That safety car really didn't help him out there. But Mikau as well, I don't know if you noticed, he did snatch a fastest lap at the end as well there. So, very impressive from the Australian in the Mercedes. And we're about to see him take the top spot there on the podium, joined by his teammate Zamis.
Now, I am not entirely sure if we are going to be getting... Are we going to try and do interviews for this race? I'm not sure. I didn't really think about it. Of course, that's something new that we're doing. But it's a long race. I imagine everyone's tired, so maybe we'll skip it. But yes, there it is. Of course, the final classification here for this one, it was the British Grand Prix 100% distance, round 4 of the MRL Endurance Series. Mikau with the race win from pole position. His teammate Zamis, who started on the front row next to him, they did it perfectly. They came home with the 1-2 for the Merc team. Freeware taking home that third position, and he started in third as well. So the top 3 staying where they started. Of course, I'm sure a couple of them would have had it differently. Aphrodite in 4th, Yoda in 5th, Liam 6th, the Domi in 7th, Swifty in 8th, Yasko in 9th, and Moen rounding off your top 10. As Gadwin comes in 11th with Nigel in 12th, Max Ingster in 13th, and of course, Extreme, Alpha, Hyper, Just Jack X, It's a Max, Crampy, and unfortunately Inulator as well, all unable to finish out this one here, all resulting in DNFs. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the racing action, and if you did, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing for more great racing. Of course, you can check us out on Twitch. Every Thursday we have Racing Then, and we're going to have a lot more coming to you soon. Twitter, where you can find all of our updates, and Discord if you're interested in becoming a part of the Misfits community. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.